All right, we are back for another whiteboard session, and today what I want to talk about is the idea of getting functional. Functional fitness is something that is often misunderstood and mismarketed, and the industry can honestly just do a lot better because what we're often sold is like some sort of like wild balance exercise or, like whether that's bouncing on a Bosu ball for something, um, or having just a ton of TRX straps. And, I put my feet in the TRX straps and I pull my knees in or whatever. It's just more functional. It helps the human body move the way humans are supposed to move. Okay, if we say so. I don't think that the human body was ever developed to move in a TRX. But instead, what we want to do is we want to start looking at the idea of what is functional through the lens of what we call general physical preparedness or general physical preparation. And that is bringing up our general qualities that then will support these skills that we have. So instead of seeing fitness as functional, understand that we have fitness, your general qualities, right? So things like your strength, speed, endurance, and your flexibility, right? These are general qualities. And then we have the actual skills that you're trying to be functional for. And the reality is that if you want to do something well, you just do that thing, right? And so if I'm saying this athlete or this person with a labor job, they're both just practicing their skill. And we often look at like the guys with the labor jobs and like, wow, they're actually stronger than powerlifters and bodybuilders. And they're not. They're just way more skilled at that specific thing. They are strong. Don't get me wrong. But like a lot of times you'll see the videos and they'll be like, well, who's stronger? And the labor guy's lifting the cement bags, and the bodybuilders are too. But you can see that the way that the labor guy is lifting it, he has the knowledge of where and how that bag is going to react, whereas the bodybuilder does not. But then if you put them on something of the bodybuilder style, he would be stronger than the labor guy in that. And that is simply because they're different skills. One is probably going to have higher overall outputs. One has a higher level of skill. Same thing with athletes. Like when you tie up with a wrestler, even if they don't do a lot of strength training, they're going to feel very strong. And to some degree, they are doing strength work because they're constantly pushing and pulling on each other. And so they're going to feel very strong. Yes, they're getting some strength work, but they also just understand the positioning of their bodies, the leverage that you don't understand if you've not done that thing. So what we want to separate is the skill from the actual qualities, and understanding that the qualities are going to create a foundation with which to be more powerful at the skill. And it does not matter if you are an athlete, if you're doing it for work, if you are doing it, I have older clients who they are working on these same things because their goal is to move around a little bit better, right? And so we have our basic general qualities. There are more physical qualities that you can add to the list, but these are kind of like if we have primary and secondary colors. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at strength, speed, endurance, and flexibility. I think those things are all pretty self-explanatory. So we're not going to talk about exactly what each of them is, but what we can talk about is how do we develop these qualities. Now, strength is probably the thing that if you haven't developed strength, that's probably going to be the thing that gives you the most benefit for most people. And so the primary way that we would look at developing strength is big compound movements. You can have isolation exercises as well, but bang for buck, we're looking at compound movements. So this will be things like squats, hinges, pushes, and pulls. and doing them variously, as opposed to, say, a power lifter who it's like, and understand, I understand that powerlifters also do these things variously to support their power lifts. But their end goal is bench press, back squat, and deadlift. Whereas if you are not a power lifter, it doesn't really matter what variation of push, pull, hinge, and squat you do. It just matters that you do one of them, because that squat is going to give you stronger legs. That hinge is going to give you really strong hips and strong back. The pushing and pulling is going to give you a stronger upper body. And you have so much freedom. You can do barbell stuff, you can do dumbbell stuff, you can do kettlebell stuff, you can do machines. Even if you don't like squatting, your body can't squat, fine, do a lunge. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that we're bringing up the general strength, as opposed to thinking of it as this is a functional movement. And yes, compounds do offer a degree of coordination. So if we look at it this way, let's understand that it's about your ability to load that exercise and to progressively overload it over a long period of time. What it is not is, I'm doing an exercise on one leg and therefore it is more functional. I assure you that balancing on one leg is not going to make an exercise more functional for you. But if you are getting stronger through greater ranges of motion, it probably will. Why? Because balance is a skill and strength and flexibility are qualities. And skills are somewhat task specific, right? And if you wanted to work your balance, I would recommend something like skateboarding. Go skateboard. I've done tons of balance work in my time, and the first time I got on a skateboard after like 10 years of not skateboarding, I couldn't balance at all. Balance happens in motion. It doesn't happen here on my exercise. There's nothing about my single leg squat that's going to make my balance so much better in a sport or in an everyday life task. The next thing that we're going to look at is the athletic side. So generally here, I'm talking about speed. So the main things that I would suggest here are sprinting, jumping, and throwing. And to do them, again, generally, sprinting is, there's different ways to break it up. There are coordination drills for it. There are acceleration phases. There are top speed phases. But the main thing is that you will sprint. And when you do the athletic side of things, you're going to get a ton of coordination out of it. Like, there's not uncoordinated athletes, right? Or there's not good athletes that are uncoordinated people, I should say. So sprinting, jumping, and that could be jumping high, that could be jumping long, that could be jumping with an approach, that could be jumping statically. Generally speaking, I'm not looking for box jumps, I'm looking more for plyometrics, where I would be repeatedly jumping and absorbing impact into the joints. Throwing, don't just think of it as like baseball, but think of it as, that could be slamming a med ball, that could be throwing underhand, that could be throwing overhand, that could be pitching, that could be something, when you're looking at an actual sport, that's probably going to be a little specific, but like if you've ever thrown a shot put before, you can throw under. There's so many ways to do it. Throw over here, and all of them prepare you a little bit differently, but they are all going to make you a little bit more athletic. Your balance is going to improve. That's your balance and movement. Your ability to absorb force is going to improve. Everything's going to improve from those. And then I'm going to give an honorable mention to acrobatics and a little bit of locomotion drills. If you haven't done those, you can kind of fit them in here. I would still consider the others the main task here, but getting a little bit of gymnastic skill and a little bit of extra movement variability is never going to hurt you. These are great things to do in your warm-ups. And understand, I don't mean gymnastics as a sport. Any sort of acrobatics, that could be some front and back rolls, could be some cartwheels. It's all going to help you become more athletic, more coordinated, understand how to use your body better by creating more movement variability. Conditioning, largely thinking this is going to be our cardio. And there's many ways to do cardio, and we don't need to focus on one. What we need to focus on, again, is the quality. So I like to run a lot. I have a lot of running goals. And so most of my cardio is based around running. Sometimes that's running very hard for very short distances, such as intervals. Sometimes it's a long, slow run. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. But it doesn't have to be running. It could be swimming. It could be biking. It could be any of the cardio machines at your gym, depending on what your goals are. So we would say like on the feet cardio is going to be running, off feet cardio is going to be everything else. And it doesn't really matter, because if the goal is not to improve running specifically, mine is, if the goal is not to improve running specifically, the goal is heart and lung health, right? So improving that cardiovascular system, it doesn't matter what the form of cardio it is. It matters, or I should say what the style of exercise that you do is. It does matter whether you're doing long intervals or threshold work. Those are all different things that we're not going to get into today. And finally, the last thing on the list is loaded stretching. And that is the way that I would look at increasing your flexibility. And it's also going to give you a lot more movement options, because you're going to get strong in different ranges of motion. When I say loaded stretching, I mean stretching with a weight. Your stretching becomes strength work, as opposed to the idea that, oh, we're just going to do a light, gentle stretch. No, we can accomplish a lot more in a much shorter period of time if we treat our stretching like strength work. If you've done a lot of Jefferson curls, then you know the feeling of you can get out of bed and put your palms on the floor without bending your knees. And to be able to do that as an adult, as opposed to a kid, is wonderful. To be able to do that in your 30s is wonderful. And not everybody is going to have that unless they do something to get strong in those ranges of motion. And it's much harder as an adult to just be flexible, get strong in the ranges of motion. You'll get more flexible. And again, you will give yourself more and more movement options, because you're going to get strong generally as opposed to specifically. If you do all these things, and it doesn't have to be a lot, right? It could be 2 days of strength and stretching, and maybe one of those days you have some conditioning at the end, or I like to have the athletic work at the beginning, right? So I'll do athletic work, strength, stretching, conditioning I usually do on different days. You don't have to put a ton of time into all of these to get a lot of benefit out of them. And how high you want to drive that ceiling depends on what your goals are. If you're an athlete, you might have much higher goals and much higher needs to really pump these things up. If you just want to be healthier and feel better and be more resilient in your everyday life, like 2 strength sessions a week, with some loaded flexibility and some speed work, that's going to take you a long way. And then do like a long run or a threshold run for your heart. It's 2 or 3 workouts a week. Not going to kill you. And if you don't want to do traditional cardio, go play a sport. If you want to compete in the sport, do extra cardio. But go play some pickup basketball. That's cardio for sure. That's still going to count. Go to jiu-jitsu class. If you don't plan on competing, don't worry about doing the extra stuff. Still build some strength, still build some speed, still build some loaded stretch or some flexibility, because those things are going to help you stay safe from being injured in said sport. And they're going to keep you developing a little bit more symmetrically, but they're not going to interrupt with your sport if you're doing them at a low enough volume. And then just do your sport for condition. And if you are a competitive athlete, if you're a combat athlete, you probably need to do some conditioning. Unless you're really, really, really good. I'm not really, really, really good. My sport's jiu-jitsu. I'm not really, really, really good at jiu-jitsu. So it's important to me that I build up these underlying things. And of that, I meant to bring this up earlier, is part of the way I was going to sell this was, if you do jiu-jitsu, then you are used to this idea that like, we're not trying to muscle through things. And I understand there's totally a reason for that. And it is to keep the technique, the technical side going 100%. And when you're looking at the idea of general physical preparedness versus what many people are doing as functional training, I just want you to spend some time thinking about like, have you ever been told not to do cable twirlies and like foam rollers stuff in jiu-jitsu? Probably not. But you have probably been told, don't use so much strength, don't go so fast, don't be so explosive, because those are the things that actually will make a difference in that foundation. Obviously, you still need to practice the sport and be good at the sport to do really well at it. But if you're really good at the sport or the skill, and then you add all the qualities, you're going to be even better. Again, if you're in jiu-jitsu, you've experienced this. You've probably never had a moment where you're just like, yeah, this guy's doing too much stuff to correct his posture and gait. I can't handle him. But you have rolled with somebody who can bench 315 pounds and clean 315 pounds, and you're like, this guy's a problem, and I do not want to deal with him. So, general physical qualities, that is how you actually get functional. Don't fall for the bullshit.